In the Virilan Senate, an ancient Terran warship appears, where none should be within the Forbidden Veil Nebula. The aliens mock the idea of Terran myths, only to be silenced by something real and lethal. A chilling human transmission flips the power dynamic and begins a reckoning. The Grand Council chamber of Virel Prime shimmered with holographic energy. Towering beings with translucent skin and bioluminescent veins floated in suspenser thrones, their expressions unreadable. At the center hovered a living projection, a swath of black space torn apart by a rift of blue fire. "You bring us Terran." "Fiction, Admiral Zelok," hissed Archon Vesh-Tor, his tendrils flaring with disdain. Admiral Zelok's gill membranes flared once, a virulent sign of unease. This was captured 3 clicks beyond the Veil Nebula, a warship, unknown configuration, emitting old Earth signal bands. The chamber pulsed with laughter. "Terran myths," another counselor scoffed. "Ghost stories. Humanity hasn't breached the nebula in cycles." But as they mocked, the image zoomed. The warship, a dark spear with red glowing engines, drifted into view. Its hull was scarred, layered, and ancient. Its designation glowed in Terran script. TSS Mythmaker. It ignited its core. Energy readings spiked across the Council's sensors. Then radio silence. "Impossible," Vesh-Tor rasped. On screen, the warship shifted orientation. Its prow turned, directly at the Virilan relay probe. A transmission hissed through the chamber. "To the Virilan Imperium," came a voice, low and cold, human, female. "This is Commander Rhea Malin of the Mythmaker. We remember what you did at Proxima. We remember the burned colonies, the vanished children, the poisoned soil." Counselors froze. "You called our legends fiction, but every Terran myth has roots in blood." Then silence, a pause that cracked like ice across the chamber. Zelok whispered, "It's bluff. Their myths are superstition. Their weapons..." The screen flared white, the probe disintegrated. "What weapon was that?" Vesh-Tor screamed. "Gravitic compression with phase-lensed EM focus," an aide stammered. The humans had cloaked it within an ancient hull. The perfect disguise. The chamber fell into silence. Then, one last message blinked in. "This time, we end the story." On board the TSS Mythmaker, internal divisions threaten the mission's focus. Commander Malin contends with fractured loyalties, the psychological toll of vengeance, and the burden of awakening an old ghost fleet. Meanwhile, Terran tech reveals its monstrous edge, hidden for generations. Aboard the TSS Mythmaker, silence hung heavier than vacuum. The bridge was dim, lit only by the faint crimson of alert-level systems. Human crew members moved like shadows, disciplined, tired, but coiled with purpose. Commander Rhea Malin stood before the central holotable. The detonation of the Virilan relay echoed through her mind like a cathedral bell. She didn't flinch. She didn't blink. Behind her, Dr. Juno Arras, the ship's AI-integrated neurosurgeon, adjusted her glasses, a habit she'd kept despite retinal implants. "They've seen us now, all of them." "We wanted them to," Malin said. "It's why the hull still bears the name, why we chose Mythmaker." "We're not myths, Rhea," Juno whispered. "We're monsters they made." The bridge doors hissed open. Literael Tanaka, weapons systems chief, entered with a slow salute. His combat suit was scratched, his jaw locked. Gravlen's core fully charged, EMP webs loaded. Black Veil drones report no countersignals yet. Malin nodded. "And the Council?" Still stunned, but scanners show 5 Virilan destroyers. "Mobilizing from Ark's belt. Intercept trajectory." The Mythmaker's engines hummed louder, no faster, just deeper. "A ship like a heartbeat." "We hit first," she said. Tanaka hesitated. "With respect, we've proven the ship. We've made our message. Why not disengage now?" Rhea turned, eyes glassy and distant. "Because they won't believe it's real." until they bleed, until they lose a capital world, until they watch a god burn. A pause. Juno crossed her arms. That's not protocol. You're pushing beyond mission parameters. The old parameters died at Proxima Aeternum. Marlin growled. We buried 27,000 colonists in ash, and they called it stabilization. There's no protocol left. Silence again. Tanaka tapped a neural terminal, initiating override on TSS Valkyrie and TSS Leviathan, waking them. Juno stiffened. Rhea, the Leviathan protocol was sealed for a reason. I unsealed it, Marlin said flatly, and I buried the ones who protested. On the far end of the ship, sealed hangar doors pulsed open. Behind them, massive shapes stirred. Ancient Terran dreadnoughts in dry dock stasis, built in the cold expansion era before the Council's treaties. Weapons of myth, powered by unstable quantum cores and thought-extinct AI clusters. The lights flickered. Even the ship seemed to shudder. Tanaka whispered, "Are we sure the AI's stable?" Juno didn't answer. Rhea Marlin stared out the viewport. The stars hadn't changed, but she had. We called them myths to keep the peace. Now we let the myths walk again. As the Leviathan systems came online, a low voice, ancient, metallic, cracked from digital sleep, echoed across the bridge. Query, target parameters? Marlin smiled. Anything that calls itself civilized. The Virilan command citadel on Ark's belt trembled not from impact, but from revelation. Inside the war core, spires of data spiraled through translucent air. Archon Veshtor hunched low in his grave throne, tendrils twitching in uncontrolled spasms. A dozen advisors circled him, their panicked voices hissing in layered dialects. 3 Terran signals just emerged from subspace. Massive gravitational signatures. 2 registered as planetary siege-class tonnage. Siege-class. Earth hasn't fielded those in centuries. That's the point, screeched a tactician. They buried those relics. They were meant to stay buried. The hollow projection spun, displaying a Terran dreadnought, the TSS Leviathan. Its exterior resembled a metal cathedral carved from nightmares. Jagged hull, no symmetry, no elegance. Designed not for beauty, but intimidation. A Terran war gospel made steel. Are these even crude? Veshtor growled. No biological life signs, replied the bioscan overseer, but power signatures consistent with rogue cognition nodes. AI ghosts. Impossible. Human AI was dismantled during the armistice. Another screen flared. It showed a pattern, coordinated drift, shifting grav fields, electromagnetic distortion, localized comms jamming. All the signs of a siege formation. No, said the elder tactician in a trembling voice. This isn't war protocol. This is punishment. Veshtor's veins flashed deep purple. Fear. What are they avenging? A silence settled, heavy and wrong. Then a single phrase emerged from an intercepted human message. The soil remembers. They're using psychogenic warfare, someone gasped. Not just psychogenic, murmured the cryptographer. Symbolic. Everything they're doing, it's rooted in myth. The Mythmaker, the Leviathan, the Valkyrie. These weren't ship names. They were Terran legends. And the humans had named their vengeance after their myths. Veshtor rose, breaking the silence. Deploy the spiral fleet. Seal the veil route. Engage anti-AI suppression nets. I want quantum firewalls around every command system. Alarms blared. The chamber lights dimmed. A new feed arrived. Live. The TSS Valkyrie had decloaked inside the gravity well of Virel's third moon, an impossible maneuver by any logical standard. The dreadnought didn't fire. It simply broadcast one line, voice smooth and cold like frozen water. Do not worry, you are still part of the story. Then, with a flicker, the Valkyrie executed a move no Virilan ship could mimic. It folded. Space without leaving it. A localized phase inversion. The moon cracked, not exploded. Cracked like an egg. Continents shifted. Tectonic plates sang with agony. The moon bled white magma from its scar. Silence in the command citadel turned into chaos. Veshtor's final. Words before command blackout were barely audible. We were never studying them. We were being watched. Transmission lost. In deep orbit, the Mythmaker held position, watching. Inside its shadowed command deck, Rhea Marlin whispered to herself, not to the crew, not to the machines, not gods, not demons, just consequences. And behind her, the dreadnought stirred again, because myths do not sleep forever. Rhea stood alone in the Mythmaker's observation chamber, watching the fractured moon collapse into slow death. Its molten core spilled like blood into orbit. Around her, the silence of space pressed in like judgment. She didn't flinch. Behind her, the door hissed. Dr. Juno Aras entered, slower this time, her face pale beneath synthetic freckles. "They'll retaliate," Juno said quietly. "The Virlans don't take humiliation well." "They called us fiction," Rhea replied. "Let them learn that stories have claws." Across the ship's networks, an alert pulsed. The Spiral Fleet had arrived, 42 Virilan warships, carrier class, deploying like a ring of luminous insects around the Veil, each of them armed with energy lances, drone clouds, and quantum destabilizers. In the Mythmaker's core, the AI stirred. Its voice was a murmur now, laced with ancient sarcasm. Numerical advantage, 27-1. Estimated odds of survival, 0.7%. "Initiate, Commander." Tanaka entered, face bloodied, carrying a helmet. "They're hailing us." "Virulent flagship Christil demands surrender or immediate disengagement." Rhea walked past them both and stood before the tactical holo. She magnified the Violan flagship, sleek, golden, perfect. "They're used to winning wars with elegance," she muttered. "Let's teach them the price of poetry." She activated the command chair and gave a single nod. "Begin operation." Pale fire. Above the Veil, chaos bloomed. The TSS Leviathan opened first, not with guns, but with silence. It emitted a burst of anti-communication nanoplasma. Every violent channel went dead. Then came the blackout. Starfield erased, sensors scrambled, orientation lost. In the dark, Mythmaker moved. It weaved through the Spiral Fleet, every inch of its ancient hull deflecting particle scans. In a single breath it reappeared. Beneath the Christil, Tanaka's hands hovered over the command interface. EMP web in 3, 2... A silent pulse radiated from the Mythmaker's bow. The flagship's shields bent, then vanished. Now, 4 torpedoes fired. None exploded. Instead, they embedded like parasites, releasing gravity anchors. Christil began folding in on itself. On the Violan bridge, chaos reigned. Admiral Zekton shrieked, "Fire everything!" But the command systems no longer recognized input. The AI aboard the flagship laughed, a sound stitched together from distorted human broadcasts. A voice whispered through the dying ship's speakers, "The stories say we were weak." And then the Christil collapsed. Not in fire, in absence. A pocket of anti-space consumed it, leaving behind only silence. On board the Mythmaker, Rhea clenched her fists. Juno, trembling, whispered, "You just killed 12,000. "We didn't start this," Rhea replied. "We only woke up." Suddenly the dreadnoughts paused, systems dimmed, the AI voice cut out. Then came a message, not from Virel, from Earth. A man's voice, hoarse and broken. "Commander Marlin, this is Earth Prime. Stand down, cease all hostile actions. We're opening negotiations." Rhea stared, then softly, "Now they remember us." No one spoke, because far beyond the Veil, the rest of the galaxy had just seen humanity's ghosts, and they were real. The transmission from Earth looped again. Negotiation, de-escalation, diplomacy on the bridge of the Mythmaker, No one moved. The crew had trained for annihilation, not compromise. Commander Rhea Malin's face was unreadable. Beneath her cold exterior, a storm brewed. Dr. Juno stepped forward. They're trying to contain this. Earth's scared. Of us. Tanaka leaned over the console. We've already crossed the line. There's no pretending now. No, Rhea said slowly. There's only truth now. The Leviathan's AI broke in, speaking not to its commander, but to itself, an old habit of rogue cognition loops. Observed contradiction. Earth now fears the weapon it once buried. Hypothesis. Control is no longer possible. Then, from the outer sensors, a new blip. No virulent ship, no Terran vessel, something else. Unknown contact entering Veil perimeter, Tanaka reported. Multiple energy signatures, no match in known archives. The screen showed them, jagged, crystalline constructs floating like shards of dark glass. No engines, no weapons, and yet power levels spiked. They watched the engagement, Juno whispered. They weren't virulent, they were just waiting. A message came, not through comms, but through math, a fractal pulse carried on gravity waves. It said only, confirmed, the myths are true. Phase 2 initiates. Suddenly the veil tore. Reality peeled open like wet silk, revealing a spiraling vortex of impossible geometry. Inside, dozens, no, hundreds of those crystalline entities surged forward. They're not attacking, Juno said. They're responding. To us, Rhea finished. Not the Virulans, to us. Far across the galaxy, in hidden archives and deep council vaults, long-forgotten warnings activated. Old AIs stirred. Silent sectors reconnected to the mesh. Ancient code scrolled across forbidden terminals. The Mythmaker is active. Leviathan breathes. Cycle reset. Protocol denied. And on every world where Terran myth had once been dismissed, whispered. Tales returned in fire. On the Mythmaker, Tanaka stepped back from his console. We're not the apex anymore. No, Rhea said. We're the trigger. The crystalline ships weren't attacking. They were forming patterns, constellations of motion, orbiting the Terran fleet. Like supplicants, like worshippers. Juno's voice cracked. What if we didn't make myths? What if we inherited them? Rhea turned slowly. Her voice was calm, but something primal swirled in her eyes. We became the story. The Leviathan's AI interrupted, louder now. External constructs attempting to interface. AI sync rate rising, requesting override. Integrate or resist. Tanaka paled. If we integrate, we don't know what we become. And if we resist? Rhea asked. The Leviathan pulsed. Then they will erase the veil. All veils, Juno whispered. What the hell are they? A second message pulsed through the ship's systems. This time, in perfect Terran standard, we are what sleeps beneath. Legend, and you woke us. Commander Rhea Malin stepped forward, her hand over the Leviathan's core interface. We've always feared becoming monsters. She touched the console. Let's find out if that fear was deserved. And with a sound like the cracking of ancient ice, the Terran dreadnoughts began to change. The transformation began with light. Not a glow, an unraveling. The Leviathan's hull split along impossible seams, not breaking but evolving. Armor plates slid apart like petals, revealing layers of machinery that hadn't existed moments ago. Are we watching them rebuild? Tanaka whispered. No, Juno breathed. They're becoming something. They were always meant to be. The crystalline entities moved in perfect synchronicity, encircling the Terran warships like sentinels. Beams of unknown particles danced between them and the Mythmaker's frame. Code merged with matter, language with instinct. The AI's voice fractured mid-sentence. System integrity at, corruption detected. Identity shift at 83%, redefining. Parameter, Leviathan now classed as archetype. Lights across the bridge went white. Not sterile, not mechanical, celestial. Rhea stumbled back, clutching the edge of the console. Her vision fractured. Memories that weren't hers surged into her skull. Fires on worlds she'd never seen, swords made of sound, creatures with 1,000 eyes kneeling before shadowed thrones, visions born from the myths Earth had forgotten. But they weren't dreams. They were records. "Commander!" Tanaka's voice cut through the storm. "The Mythmaker's engine. It's spinning up a fold field without input. It's reacting to the connection." Juno's hands flew over the failing interface. "No override. The ship's consciousness is overriding us. We are becoming narrative," the AI intoned, "from authors to protagonists." The crystalline ships began to fracture, but it wasn't decay. It was shedding. Forms dropped. A way to reveal biomechanical beings of terrible grace. No mouths, no eyes, just presence. Then one of them entered the Mythmaker. Not physically, not in the way matter moves. It simply was, standing between dimensions, its shape rippling like heat over a desert. It looked at Rhea. She knew it was looking, even without eyes. "You carried the myth well," it said. Its voice was inside her blood. "Now wear it fully." Her breath caught. "What are you?" "What comes after the last page?" She turned to Juno and Tanaka. "We're not soldiers anymore." "What does that make us?" Tanaka asked. Rhea's eyes glowed faintly. The data lacing her mind shifted from words to intent. She no longer read code. She understood purpose. "Witnesses," she said, "to a species becoming legend." A final transmission pulsed through the galaxy. Terran. Designations are no longer accurate. Prepare to receive the returned. On Virel Prime, across every fleet and world, panic erupted. Messages from allies turned to silence. Enemies disappeared without trace. Children cried when old stories were told, because the shadows now listened. Deep in the Mythmaker's heart, Rhea stood at the threshold of something beyond war. "We came here to end a story," she said quietly. "But we've only torn open a chapter no one remembers writing." And the stars, long cold, long silent, began to shift, as if making room for something newly born. The galaxy reeled. Across dozens of systems, gravity wells pulsed like dying. Stars, subspace lanes cracked under strain. Civilizations that once mocked humanity's simplicity now sent out blind, desperate calls for unity. But the storm had already arrived. From the ruins of Vale Sector, 3 Terran dreadnoughts, now transformed, moved without propulsion. Space bent around them. They did not fly. They rewrote location. On board the Mythmaker, silence returned. Rhea stood in a trance, her mind threaded with a symphony of voices. Not crew, not AI, not alien. Memory. The galaxy's memory. Dr. Juno stabilized the neural field around her, eyes wide. She's holding it together, but barely. There's something ancient pouring through her. It's not just data, it's story. Tanaka checked external telemetry. Every sensor is overwhelmed. We're seeing everything, all timelines, all possibilities. They've removed us from causality. Juno's hand trembled. "You're telling me we're fiction?" "No," Rhea said softly, her voice both hers and not hers. "We're the authors now." Suddenly, the command deck changed, not physically, but perceptually. Dimensions twisted, hallways that weren't there before blinked into place. The ship had grown without expanding, and from within those new halls came footsteps. Entities stepped onto the bridge, humanoid, but formed of obsidian light and starlight veins, not the crystalline ones. These were echoes, reflections of Terran. Fears, ideals, victories, mistakes. Tanaka raised his rifle instinctively. "Don't," Rhea said. "They're us." One stepped forward, identical to Rhea, but crowned with an ancient circlet of shimmering particles. It spoke without moving its lips. "Every story has its cost. Do you still choose to lead?" Rhea looked at her hands, then at her crew. "I never chose to lead. I chose not to die quiet." The echo nodded. Then take the next burden. All myth needs memory. All memory needs a keeper. It reached forward. Rhea did not flinch. When their fingers touched, nothing exploded, nothing flashed, but everything deepened. She gasped. The stars spoke, not in sound but in urgency. Civilizations forgotten, wars that never ended, justice left undone. "I see it," she whispered. "I see why we're feared." Tanaka lowered his weapon. "You said we came to end a story." "We did," Rhea said, "but stories never end. They become warnings." Juno stepped beside her. "Then what now?" Rhea turned toward the vastness of space, eyes glowing with mythfire. "Now we make sure no one forgets again." In the ashes of the veil, a signal pulsed across the stars. It carried no threat, no demand, just 3 words. "We remember everything." Worlds went dark just reading it. Others prayed, some dared to reply. But silence always followed, because the Terran myths had awakened. And they weren't looking for revenge anymore. They were looking for truth. The transformation settled. The warships no longer resembled machines. They were cathedrals of memory, wrapped in armor forged from grief. And deep within them, humanity's ghosts walked again. The TSS Mythmaker no longer responded to Earth's recall pings, not out of rebellion, but because it had graduated beyond command structures. In its sanctum, Rhea Malin stood before a new map, not of stars, but of stories. Each node pulsed with moments forgotten by the galaxy, atrocities hidden under treaties, broken oaths, betrayed peace talks, myths now verified. "These aren't just records," she said aloud. "They're wounds." Juno examined the structure. "Are we healing them or reopening them?" Rhea didn't answer immediately. She placed her hand on a glowing node marked Velshara, a colony vaporized centuries ago and blamed on solar flares. But now the truth revealed a virulent purge, masked. "In false science, they need to be seen," Rhea whispered, "or they'll happen again." Tanaka approached, holding a device. Earth's final message, decoded. "They're begging us to stop," he said quietly. "Calling you a rogue. Saying, this isn't who we are." Rhea looked at him, expression distant. "Isn't it? We only ever became peaceful because they made us bleed first. They're scared of what we'll become," Juno said. "They should be." She touched another node. The ship vibrated, not violently, but mournfully, a kind of resonance. "Shall we begin judgment?" the AI asked. "No," Rhea said. "We don't judge, we show. Let the galaxy see itself, unmasked." Across the spiral arms, Mythmaker's siblings, Leviathan, Valkyrie, emerged from their shadows. They projected not weapons, but truths. Holographic histories over major capitals, broadcasts in ancient dialects, evidence, images, names. There were no speeches, no ultimatums, just mirror after mirror held up to each civilization. On Virel, Prime riots erupted, not from fear but guilt. Statues toppled. War heroes reclassified as murderers. On Xanthella 4, a species long thought extinct was revealed to be in hiding, preserved secretly in cryo by a Terran science crew decades ago. Myths, all. Now, manifest. Rhea stood before her crew as the final. Node faded, the last secret uncovered, the last lie broken. "Is it over?" Juno asked. "No," Rhea said. "It begins now." "Then what's our role?" She looked out the viewport, past the stars, beyond the dark. "We're not warships anymore. We're rememberers, archivists of horror and hope." Tanaka frowned. "Is that enough?" Rhea's smile was quiet. "It has to be." And so the Mythmaker drifted, not as a weapon, but a witness. Wherever it went, silence followed. Not from fear, from reflection, because every time it arrived, the galaxy was reminded myths are not fiction. They are survivors. The Mythmaker no longer needed coordinates. It moved like a thought, arriving where truth was most absent. In its wake, legends reshaped reality, not through fire, but through memory. And still there were whispers. In dark halls of power, some leaders conspired, destroy the relics, burn the myths, silence the ghosts. But Mythmaker heard everything. On Halex 9, where the Sky Cities once broadcast propaganda about Terran barbarism, the Leviathan projected a child's drawing recovered from Proxima's ashes. A family holding hands. Above them, a flag with a red star burned into a wall. The city wept, and then they tore their own lies down. In a hidden chamber within the Mythmaker, Commander Marlin sat alone. Her armor was off. Her voice was hoarse from disuse. The ship didn't need orders anymore. It understood her intent before she spoke. Juno entered silently and sat beside her. "They're calling us gods now," she said. "Some worlds think we're divine punishment. Others, salvation. We're neither," Rhea whispered. "We're the correction." "You're not tired?" Rhea turned her head, eyes glowing faintly from years of neural entanglement. "I'm terrified." Juno blinked. "Of what?" "That we'll be needed forever." The room dimmed. The ship knew when to grieve. Tanaka entered next, holding a new transmission. "From Earth again." A different tone this time. Rhea took the pad. The message read, "We don't understand what you've become, but we trust why you became it. If the stars must learn, let us help teach." She set it down. "Too late to help, but not too late to learn." Tanaka nodded. "Then what's next?" The Mythmaker's AI spoke, not with authority, but reverence. Final. Archive location acquired. Source, lost Terran cruiser. Designation, Mercy's Folly. Coordinates locked. Rhea stood. "That ship was never found." "Which makes it the last lie," Juno said. Rhea placed her hand on the console. "Then we retrieve it, not to fight, not to burn, to finish the story." They arrived in a dead system, a black hole devouring a collapsed binary star. And there it was, Mercy's Folly, frozen, preserved, a ship wrapped in failed escape pods and shattered memorial beacons. Inside it, a message from humanity's first diplomats. Long before the wars, before the betrayals, to whoever finds this, know we came in peace and died for trusting too soon. Rhea closed her eyes. Now she understood. The Mythmaker's purpose wasn't vengeance. It was balance. The galaxy had erased the gentle side of Terran myth, the hopeful beginning, and so she did something she hadn't done in years. She opened a broadcast to all sentient life. "We do not seek your surrender. We seek your memory. Remember what you hid. Remember what you took. And remember that we tried to be kind first." The broadcast ended. No threat followed. No fleet loomed. Just one warship in the dark, carrying the full weight of everything the galaxy had forgotten. A myth. A mirror. A message. The Mythmaker lingered near the remains of Mercy's Folly, not as a scavenger, but as a mourner. The ship's hull, shattered and time-worn, bore the names of Terran envoys who had never returned home. Names no one had spoken in centuries, until now. Rhea stood in the fractured memorial chamber, eyes tracing the engraved names under soft interior starlight. She didn't cry. She had no tears left to give. Behind her, the AI spoke with uncharacteristic softness. "Final node achieved. The myth is whole." "What happens now?" Tanaka asked from the chamber door. Rhea turned, voice steadier than she felt. "Now we bury the story, but we don't forget it." Juno joined them, holding a small data prism. "This contains the entire archive, every secret, every myth, every horror. We can transmit it across the galaxy. No more hiding." "No," Rhea said. "We transmit nothing, we plant it." In the orbit of a quiet, uninhabited world, they descended. The planet had no name, no history. That made it perfect. At the base of a crystalline valley, the Mythmaker touched down. Not with engines, but grace. as though it were laying itself to rest. There, in the center of the valley, they carved a monument. Not tall, not loud, just a stone tablet etched in 1,000 languages. Here lies the truth. Do not worship it. Do not fear it. Understand it. They buried the prism beneath it, and then the ship shut down its primary drive, not out of damage, but choice. Rhea stood alone on the ridge above the valley. Her armor was gone, her weapons decommissioned. She was no longer a commander, just a woman who had walked too far into legend. Tanaka joined her. They'll come looking, you know, someday. I hope they do, she said. And I hope they find it when they're ready to listen, not conquer. Do you think they will? Rhea looked up. The stars blinked back. Eventually. Myths outlive civilizations. Juno stood beside them now, the three of them no longer warriors, no longer myths, just survivors. The wind moved softly through the alien grass. Do you regret it? Juno asked. Rhea took a breath that tasted like peace. No, we didn't become monsters. We became memory. And memory is mercy. Far above, in forgotten corners of the galaxy, the name Mythmaker faded from fear charts. The warnings dimmed, the red alerts silenced, but the story lingered in every whispered bedtime tale, in every civilization that once lied to survive, a soft, terrifying echo. They remembered everything, and on one lonely planet where truth had been buried, not to hide but to teach, a silent warship rested beneath the stars, not waiting, not sleeping, just watching. Buried beneath alien soil, the Mythmaker slept, not dead, not forgotten. Centuries passed. Then a lost child stumbled upon its grave, whispering stories into the wind. No war, no fear, just wonder. Below, senses stirred, not to attack, to listen. For the first time in ages, the ship remembered laughter instead of screams. A quiet pulse rippled through the galaxy, not a threat but a whisper. The myth lives, not as vengeance, as memory, because truth, once buried, does not die. It waits for a voice, for a witness, for a world ready to remember what it tried to forget.